Welcome, everyone, to the BioNexus Approach to Biotoxin Illness book launch party. First of all, I'll say a couple things about myself, and then I'll introduce my dear friend, Dr. Jodie A. Dashore. I'm a pediatrician and a mold-based illness expert. I've been certified in the Dr. Shoemaker protocol for treatment of and diagnosis of SIRS. I've been seeing patients for about 10 years here in Roswell, New Mexico. And I met Dr. Jodie Dashore 4 years ago and changed my life. I don't know if it changed hers, but it certainly changed my life. So allow me right now to just kind of shift the focus here to our special guest of honor, Dr. Jodie A. Dashore, who is the author of the BioNexus Approach to Biotoxin Illness. Most of you probably already know her and her work, and some of you may even be patients at the BioNexus Health Clinic. So Jodie, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. It's an honor having you here. Thank you for being here today. And thank you to each and every one of my guests for being here today. And thank you to all of the participants for taking the time to join me today. This book has been years and years of hard work, and I'm really grateful that it has finally come to fruition. One important thing you guys must have noticed that on the top left of your screen, we are recording the meeting. So just so everyone knows. And I see, as I mentioned earlier, my son Brian is here. The book is dedicated to my son Brian, and I'm really glad he's able to join us today from his university apartment. So Brian.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Dashore. Obviously, you know, I'm Dr. Dashore's son. I'm currently studying to become a doctor in a BSDO accelerated program. And as you guys probably know, I used to suffer from Lyme disease, SIRS, other types of exposure and that affected my body a lot. So I got better over the course of a few years, and here I am today. I'm studying to become a doctor, and it's going well so far.
Scott, would you like to introduce Dr. Shoemaker?
My goodness, that's an honor.
He doesn't need any introduction.
He doesn't need,
of course not.
The world famous Dr. Shoemaker.
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie Shoemaker has been studying biotoxin illnesses after he serendipitously recognized the illness we now call SIRS something like 23 years ago. He's written multiple books on health. He's published somewhere around 30 articles. He's done expert witness work. He's trained a generation of physicians in biotoxin illness. So Dr. Shoemaker, why don't you take it away? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you know about Jodie?
At the end of any given day and time period, if you have the opportunity to sit down and say, well, what did I do today? What did I not do? What good, what not good? Kind of evaluation. One of the best things that's happened to me is Jodie Dashore. And by extension with Jodie, we got this little kid who doesn't know he's going to be a physician, not a doctor, but a physician. And Brian, don't forget that. That is critical. You are responsible for the health of others. And being responsible for that health means that we use data that are significant, have been tested, come out of the crucible of science, and say, yes, this is reliable. We're not going to guess, we're not going to make assumptions, and we're not going to do 15 things at once. Right, Brian?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Good. So now at the end of the day, I did two things good. One is to meet Jodie, and the other is to get a yes from Brian. So without further ado, let's keep right on going, because I am delighted to be here.
Thank you.
So Dr. Ritchie, would you like to tell us a little bit about the difference between being a physician and a doctor?
Many people can call themselves doctors. You might be an economist and have a PhD. We'll call you doctor. So I find that if you're going to be talking about healing people, we don't want you to be a doctor as an economist. We want you to be a physician.
For those of you who don't know, Dr. Shoemaker and I have had the pleasure of working together for 10 years. I still feel like I'm an intern and he's the attending with 40 years experience. So thank you very much, Dr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Dr. Man. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you,
You can
Dr.
call me Scotty anytime you want.
Thank you, Dr. Shoemaker.
Have a good one. Congratulations, Brian. Congratulations Jody, great job.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Shoemaker.
Awesome. And Dr. Joe Musto is going to talk to us a little bit about Formula One and some of the work that he and Dr. Dashore did together. Can you give us your thoughts on Formula One and your data-driven approach?
Sure. I'm Dr. Joe Musto. I'm a laboratory person for the last 50 years. I've known Dr. Dashore for about 4 years, and she contacted me back in January or so, December, January, and asked me if I would do some testing on a product that she had developed that could eventually become useful in the treatment of Mayor's Mark-on positive patients. I think I'll stop right there and return later to talk specifically about the study that I did with her. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Musto. Next, I have the opportunity to call on Dr. David Brassey, from Amrita Nutrition, which is the BioNexus Herbals distributor in the United Kingdom. Dr. Brassey?
Actually, it's Rob Fordham, who's the senior nutritionist for Amrita Nutrition, because David can't make it tonight.
I see.
And yeah, congratulations, Jody.
Thank you, Rob.
And where are you? Yeah, and yourself. We're a UK-based supplement company, as you just said, and we'll be distributing the BioNexus products, and we're really looking forward to working with you, Jody. That's exciting.
What has been the response so far? Do you have any idea? How's it going?
To be honest with you, not at this point. It's only relatively new, since we've sort of started stocking the product. So we're awaiting feedback, and as soon as we get it, we'll be passing it on to you.
Okay, wonderful. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Hey, Jody, when are you passing out the party hats and the noisemakers?
I know that's something that I completely forgot.
Ah. Oh, wow.
I was gonna have noisemakers, party hats, and I was gonna have decorations. But yeah, I have the flowers.
Very nice. They're beautiful. So next we have joining us from South Africa, Dr. Farrel Hellig. Dr. Hellig.
Hi, thank you for inviting me, Jody, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
See, you all know each other, but you probably don't know me. So I'm not in the inner circle because I'm not an expert on biotoxin illness, but I am an interventional cardiologist in Johannesburg, South Africa, and a professor of cardiology at the University of Cape Town. And I speak based on my experience as the husband and father of 2 of Jody's patients. So they are being treated long distance by Jody, and I guess I'll explain to you the experience a bit later, but that's how I get to be speaking to you tonight. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Jody on a number of occasions when our paths have crossed at various international congresses around the world, and we've had some time to get to know each other and chat. And we've always enjoyed mutual respect, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hellig. We also have back on this side of the pond one Michael Macione from Hopkinton Drug, which is an American distributor of BioNexus Herbals. Take it away, Michael.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations, Jody.
Thank you.
Oh, as Scott said, I'm Michael. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Hopkinton Drug Compounding Pharmacy. And the short version of what I do is I bring awareness to our products and services, and we kind of seek out new products and services to stay relevant and be on the cutting edge. And we had the opportunity to work with Dr. Dashore and help him bring her product to the U.S. market here.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Michael. Now that we've met all the guests today, let's, as Dr. Jody likes to say, let's begin at the beginning. So Dr. Jody, you were a neurologist before moving to the United States. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
That was, I like to say, another lifetime. So, educated at the University of Bombay, medical schools in Bombay, moved to the United Kingdom for higher studies. And then I had the opportunity to come to the United States, and that's what I did. It's been a very long time. I've been a citizen for about almost 20 years now. So that was, now Brian came along in 2001. So
Oh my.
I'll just.
I bet that was a change. Maybe you and Brian can tell us a little bit of what happened then.
Well, after Brian came along, we found out like around, when he was 6.5 years old, approximately, he came home from baseball practice and he was unable to walk. It's just literally his left leg was of minimal use, excruciating pain at the hips, and excruciating pain in his back and neck, but not as much as his hips and pelvis. And he ended up in a wheelchair, and the long journey began from there. Prior to this, we were dealing with spectrum issues as well. So I had a child who was minimally verbal, and I have Brian's permission to go into that a little bit, right, Brian?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
And so we had Brian in excruciating pain in a wheelchair. The next couple years, we traveled many different countries, almost 10 to 12 states in the United States to visit with different experts and specialists. And we ended up with the diagnoses of pandas, Lyme disease, Bartonella, Babesia, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. At this time, we were not aware of CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So we looked at the allopathic approach. Then we started having numerous gastrointestinal issues. Then we moved to the natural approach. I had the extreme good fortune, we did as a family, a good fortune of meeting Stephen Buhner, Julie McIntyre, a good opportunity of mentoring with them. They guided us with herbals and homeopathy and various alternative approaches. So that's where we started to turn the corner, and we were still, not quite there. That's when I researched and came upon Dr. Shoemaker's body of work, and the rest, is history. Brian, anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to add a few things to that. And just to give a little bit from my perspective, before my diagnosis, I used to play a lot of sports, just karate and baseball. And I even started playing basketball because I was perfectly fine. And all of a sudden the diagnosis happened. And it did bring a huge change into my life. Like I was basically trying to survive at that point. And rather than meeting friends at school, I met you guys. And I believe that you guys are more so like my second family as opposed to like my actual family. And I'm really thankful that you guys actually took the time out of your busy days and your busy lives to take care of me and figure out what's wrong with me. And I have to thank my mom for all that effort as well during that time. And it was insane as to how far I've gotten ever since we diagnosed all those issues and treated them.
Wow, that's quite the story, Brian. So once you guys met Dr. Shoemaker, where did things go from there with his work on CIRS?
Yes, we did. Dr. Shoemaker introduced a huge game-changing missing link, which was chronic inflammation. And, we did the Shoemaker panel, we did the labs, the nasal swab, we did the brain MRI neuroquant, and I recall Brian's brain MRI neuroquant, the results were moderate to severe. I was looking at, a 65-year-old with Alzheimer's. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, it was encouraging that there were some answers. So that's Dr. Shoemaker guided us to the last piece to the puzzle. So we had, inflammation. I mean, literally, Scott, we had tried everything from, you know, when a mother family gets a spectrum diagnosis, people, it's just, it is a life sentence, not just for the patient, it is a life sentence for the family. And you know, it is very easy to become depressed and discouraged. And I don't know, you know, there was a light inside that said that you know, I see that light in Brian as well. There's something else going on. It's not, you know, I checked back on my family history. We don't have any neurological or neuropsych issues like this for generations. I've never heard of such a thing. The same on my husband's side, you know, I haven't heard of anything. So that encouraged me to look deeper, and that led me to meeting Dr. Shoemaker ultimately. And life-changing. We finally had Brian out of the wheelchair. We finally had his pain resolved. His cognitive gains were astronomical. I always say, you know, we went from spectrum to the honor roll.
And to interject on that, like I started feeling the honor roll part about in like 8th grade, when all of a sudden I could just start solving everything like crazy. I did math, I got A+ all around, and before I used to really struggle in understanding different math concepts and reading and English, and now I'm just sailing through it. And that's how I'm able to expand my limits and figure out more about the world itself and pursue knowledge as to how it works. That's basically my end goal.
Cool. You were just a little Einstein. Little Einstein. So at what point did you guys seek help from Dr. Shippen?
Dr. Shippen, well, we were having trouble with a diagnosis of failure to thrive. And, you know, as yourself and Dr. Shoemaker explained that the endocrine piece, the endocrine imbalances, the androgens is a very big piece to the SIRS puzzle. And we were introduced to Dr. Shippen. I'm not sure if he's here, actually. I don't see him. Sorry. Is he here? No. So I have a mutual friend, a physician from Massachusetts, who introduced me to Dr. Shippen. So Dr. Cohen, thank you very much. A big shout out. Her family was my patient, so I was able to help her family with, you know, through Lyme and co-infections. And she in turn introduced us to Dr. Shippen. And Dr. Shippen has been extremely gracious, a wonderful mentor. He doesn't see children, but he was gracious and kind enough to take on Brian, you know, at my request. And we started with the growth hormones. We started with HCG shots. So HCG, human growth hormone shots as well, so 2 shots. We also tried some hydroxy B12 shots at this point, trying to spark growth. We did manage to lose the diagnosis of failure to thrive. We did manage to salvage the puberty at that time for Brian. So that it was a huge leap forward. I wish he was here. I know he was going to be here. He's but I guess something came up. He's retired, so I guess something came up.
I suppose. By the way, the distinguished Mary McMahon just entered the room, and your dear friend Claire McMahon wanted me to wish you well. She has class right now, if you can imagine.
Thank
How
you.
uncool. So let's talk for a moment about your plant-based approach to biotoxin illness. You know, Brian had gut issues, he had brain issues, and you were looking for alternative methods. You know, can you share some highlights about, you know, what brought you to the BioNexus herbals and the BioNexus approach?
Yes, absolutely. I started seeing similar patients in my practice as well, similar to what Brian was going through. So I figured, you know, all the formulas that I am coming up with for Brian, it would be, since they are already tried and tested with Brian, maybe I could expand them with informed consent to my patients. And we started off with 2 or 3 patients, and we saw excellent results. That is why hey, Mary, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Very sweet. And throughout, I've had guidance from Stephen Buhner, from Julie McIntyre, and there were several other herbalists that I met. I pursued my PhD in herbal medicine with a minor in quant physics, and that was very helpful in expanding my knowledge. I already had a background in Ayurvedic, Eastern medicine, Eastern herbals, and now I was learning more and more about Western herbals. One thing that I found was that, spiritual herbalism, it affects the quality of the herbals, small batch made, locally grown, sustainably grown, biodynamic herbals. Those seem to have a wonderful, deep, nourishing effect on the human body. And I know they did wonderful things for Brian as well. So through Buhner, I was introduced to a couple herbalists and couple biodynamic farmers. I happened to connect with one in Lancaster, and a wonderful family. And that's how BioNexus Apothecary and the biodynamic farm that came about. And the key thing that happened here is I found that many patients don't have formulations or herbal formulations for many niche areas, like, cytokine modulation, immune system modulation. So I was able to develop, and I always feel that I lost my mom in 2016 in October. And it was a devastating loss, but, in that darkness, the one light that I felt was I felt her spirit with me. So literally from the moment she passed, I remember October 18th, 2016, I felt her light travel from Bombay to the United States. And she's been here with me, and it just felt like a lot of blessings, a lot of opportunities. It was, somebody working magic up there. Things just started falling into place. And it just feels as if all of my formulations they just came to me. It wasn't something that I said, okay, here's papers, here's research, I'm going to sit down. And no, the formulations just came to me, and the information, it was almost like, a download of sorts. And of course, there is about 40 to 50 pages of evidence-based research as well that went into my PhD thesis, which was herbal medicine for autism. And that same has gone into this book as well. So there's a lot of research with respect to the active compounds in herbals. But I feel that this is all a blessing. Meeting you, meeting all these wonderful people, my mentors, my patients that are here with me today. I don't want to get emotional, but it's just so much abundance. I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful.
Wow. And I met you in the first week or two of November of that year. I didn't realize that your mom had just passed. So sorry.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing all that. That brings us to our other guests, Dr. Joe Musto, Dr. David, Dr. Hellig, and Michael Macione. I want to say Michael Macione, but I won't. So why don't we start with you, Michael? And Hopkinton carries Jodie's formulas, the Formula 1 NSB nasal spray. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision process to add that, and what the response to carrying that has been?
We started a discussion with Dr. Dashore. I don't know how long it's been now, maybe less than a year, but close to that. And we started learning more about her product and just the amount of time and research that she put into it. And, we talked about possibly bringing it to the US market as a prescription item. And that's sort of what we do here. We seek out new products, like I said earlier, and we want to keep our our base of products current and fresh, and just the research that she did, coupled with a nod from Dr. Shoemaker and the testing by Dr. Musto, was a no-brainer for us to bring something a little bit different, a plant-based nasal spray. It appeals to a lot of the people that we serve. And so that's how it got started. It was quite a process. And it's also, like other people had mentioned, fairly new for us right now. I think once we got everything situated and got the product here, we're about 50 days in or so, so too early to really hear back any results. But what I can tell you is that people are thrilled to have this option, and thankful for Dr. Dashore's work in creating a product like this. And if it's of any benefit to anybody, we started small. We ordered a gallon from her, and in short order that was gone. And so I think we ordered 5 times as much this time, and it's flying out the door. So we're excited about that, and excited also to hear back from people and physicians, prescribers on what they think about it.
Awesome. Hey, Michael, can you tell us what the recommended dosage is? Is that within your purview?
I actually, Dr. Dashore, maybe you can speak to that. I have not memorized that yet, but
sorry to put you on the spot that way.
no, I think is it 2 sprays twice a day?
It's 2 sprays each nostril 3 times a day.
Okay.
And of course, that is the average adult dose. And as with all herbals, there are options for dilution, and there are pediatric doses. So there is a Formula 1 NSP brochure that goes to each practitioner.
Awesome. That's great. And Dr. David, I don't think you're with us today, but Rob, you are.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, speaking on behalf of David, I have not quite an Oscar speech here.
Well, we're waiting.
Yeah, it's just a short paragraph. I mean, David obviously wanted me to read this. He says, we're delighted to be associated with Jodie's work, as she is at the forefront of biotoxin in the biotoxin field. Our challenge is awareness and educating our practitioners in the unique attributes of these bespoke products. And like I said earlier, we're awaiting feedback, and when we do, we'll be passing that on. So we're very excited to be stocking your products. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll personally thank you also, so that the UK can now have clear noses.
Yeah, exactly.
Very important.
Yeah, and Europe and the rest of
All
the
of
world.
Europe. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Dr. Joe Musto, you did a study on the effectiveness of Formula 1 NSP against MARCoNS. That's multiply antibiotic-resistant coagulase negative staph. You want us to tell us about it? You want to tell us about it? I can't speak today. I apologize.
You're doing okay, Scott.
Thanks.
I just want to congratulate you, Jodie. It sounds like you have a very beneficial product.
Thank you.
For the patients who are suffering. Well, back in around January, I communicated with Dr. Dashore, and she asked me if I would do a study on MARCoNS with this new compounded material that she had developed, a natural product. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to. So basically, she sent me the reagents, and I took 33 NARS cultures from patients that were, out of the 33, 26 of them were positive for MARCoNS, and all but one of them were positive for biofilm. The other 7 were coag negative staph, but they weren't MARCoNS. And I tested them in a basic inhibition type assay, the same type of assay that you would see when you order a susceptibility, say on a urine culture, and you get all of the drugs that are sensitive or resistant. So it was that kind of a protocol that I used. And it turned out that the efficacy was better than 97% in terms of its killing power.
Wow.
And I wrote that up and I sent it to Dr. Dashore, and she was pleased with the results. And that's something she could forward on to Dr. Shoemaker if he's interested, and I'm sure he'd be interested in taking a look at it. But it adds another dimension to treating patients who are positive for MARCoNS. One other thing I did, there was a Candida species that I also tested, and it showed that this preparation, the Formula One, was effective in eradicating Candida. And that's something I'll talk further with Dr. Dashore if she wants me to do some further studies on yeast and possibly mold. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
When you're talking about Candida, are you talking about in the mouth or more of a vaginal infection or possibly all of the above?
This was a specimen from a Nares culture.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't think it matters what the source was. The fact that the preparation killed the Candida species, I think it's a good sign, and it may be effective against a number of other yeasts that are commonly found.
Awesome. Well, Joe, I'm going to personally thank you for your work in helping Dr. Dashore bring this to market. And I want to thank Rob and Dr. David from Amrita Nutrition, and also Michael Macione and Dr. Dennis Cates from Hopkinton Drug for all the things that you've done to help make this product the success that I know it's going to be. So thank you guys very much.
Very welcome.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about the study that you did, Dr. Joe?
What else can I tell you?
I don't know.
I can briefly explain what the process was. Each test solution, each patient had its own control. So this was all in vitro testing. So I would add the MARCoNS to a broth, and I would that would be the control tube for that patient, and to the test portion of that there'd be another tube that I would add the Formula One, and I would incubate them overnight. Each patient had a control and a test. I would incubate it overnight, take them out of the incubator, take a 1 microliter loop so I could get a quantitative estimate of the number of colonies that would grow out. And I streak a plate for the control and a plate for the test for each patient. And I saw how many colonies there were in the control, which had no inhibition at all. And that usually runs like 5 million colony count. Then see how many colonies grow with the Formula One and do the math. And it turns out that between 97 and 99% of the time, there was inhibition of the MARCoNS from these 26 patients, and the coag negative staph on the other 7 patients.
Awesome.
Sorry, I just have a question, Dr. Musto.
Sure.
You mentioned that most of these samples also had a 3+ strong biofilm.
Yes, yes.
Right. Okay. So that could be another prospective study to see if it is effective. But in essence, it is effective against biofilm, right? That's already been established.
Yes, it's
Yeah. Okay.
very well established since 26 of the MARCoNS patients I think there was only one patient that was biofilm negative.
Negative, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And all of the rest were biofilm positive. And I have the data to show how many were strongly positive biofilm, how many were weakly positive, that kind of thing. But it's very important that the Formula One performed as well as it did, because we see at MicroDX about 80% of the Marcons that we isolate are biofilm positive.
Mm,
Okay. So if this product didn't break through the biofilm and kill the staph coag negative, there'd be a lot of patients that would not be responsive to this. So,
Right.
and you know in your own clinical practice, even before you sent me the material, that you were getting good results. And
yes.
I'm sure a lot of those patients were not only Marcons positive, but biofilm positive.
Very,
That's
yes.
very, very important.
Thank
And
you.
I've been testing it in my practice too, and so far I've had 100% success.
Oh, that's
Excellent.
awesome.
So,
Mm,
so far, if I get one that doesn't respond, Jody, I'll let you know.
okay, then
Oh,
I'm in trouble.
I have a question. How long do you treat them? Is it like the bag spray and so forth, like 4 to 6 weeks? How long do you treat the patients?
Who are you asking?
Both of you.
Okay.
You both are treating the patients.
So I've been treating until the bottle was empty.
How long is that?
It's 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, that short a period. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes a month, depends on how compliant people are. We've used the 2 sprays each nostril 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. I asked that question because I have a lot of clinicians who will call and ask for different products that can be used. And what I've been telling them is essentially it's equivalent to the bag spray or the colloidal silver EDTA in terms of the dosage, 2 sprays each nostril 3 times a day for about 4 weeks to 6 weeks. And if it's biofilm positive, then you may want to do it a little extra time to be sure you've eradicated everything.
Mhm.
How long do you recommend treating, Jody, since you created it?
I did not, what happens with my practice, my follow-ups are around 3 months.
Oh, okay.
So inadvertently, just because of that, the retesting happens 3 months. Now, what I've noticed is that, a large majority of my clients on Formula One NSB have been happy to continue because of the benefit they've seen. Sometimes the benefit is quite dramatic. I've had more than one autistic patient with just stopped bedwetting with after about 2 weeks on the spray. So I haven't quite looked into that further, but that's been interesting. Then I've had a lot of patients that have actually their seasonal allergies have vanished. The stuffiness, not just the Marcon, but the stuffy noses, the allergies, the snoring, the mouth breathing, all of that has improved. I've had some patients whose chronically swollen tonsils have also calmed down. So it's been really interesting.
Very cool.
Overall.
Very
Can I
cool.
bring up something related?
Yes, of course.
I know Dr. Shoemaker has recommended using 0.25% EDTA on an extended basis for patients going through his protocol. So they may be on that for maybe a 6-month period.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, from a safety point of view, if the Formula One could be used continuously throughout the Shoemaker protocol to be sure that the Marcons are eradicated to the point where you get to the VIP. You want to be sure the Marcons are gone. What are your thoughts, Scott and Jody? What are your thoughts about that?
I've been on it on a maintenance dose for about 3 years now. And I believe, so has Brian. Brian's right, Brian? You haven't had any concerns with using Formula One?
No, I have not had any concerns in regards to Formula One.
Right, and
Right.
I do have several patients that just don't want to let go of it because they feel so good. They have that occasional exposure to mold. Then for the people that it's working for other reasons as well, they don't want to discontinue use, and it's I've seen that it works really well without any additional concerns, along with VIP. Like Brian has been on VIP as well for 2 years, and so I do have other patients who are on VIP, and we haven't seen any adverse reactions or interactions.
Jodie, when you say a maintenance dose, what do you mean specifically?
A maintenance dose would be 1 spray each nostril once a day. And if
Okay.
if you have an inadvertent exposure to mold, like grocery store, restaurant, whatever, then you would come back home and repeat that.
Okay.
Dr. Hellig, do you want to tell us about any insights that you may have gained from working with Jodie in respect to mold illness and her plant-based herbal approach to treatment?
I'm in a very technical field, which is a very hard science-based discipline, interventional cardiology, possibly the fastest moving discipline in medicine. And so, I come from that kind of background. But my wife she contracted Lyme disease when she was studying in Boston 35 years ago. And my daughter, who's now 22, had in utero transmission. And they were diagnosed as chronic fatigue syndrome for many years and didn't have a diagnosis. And we'd struggled with both allopathic and herbal practitioners in my country, South Africa, for many, many years, with many false starts. And eventually we managed to discover, fortunately, Jodie, and they've been under her therapy now for 3 years. And my wife is actually more knowledgeable on herbal medicine than I am, because even though she's a layperson, she's extremely well read, and she spends many, many hours a day researching. And she actually teaches me. I'm actually looking forward to reading Jodie's book, so I can have a bit of a fast track on this one. But what I can tell you is the observation of, and the thing that struck me most about Jodie is her ability to integrate allopathic and herbal medicine. She's not stuck on one or the other. And often when you come across practitioners, it's hard and fast, one track. And this ability to be aware of both the nuance of both therapies and how to integrate them has been what I believe the success in my family's therapy. I've been always open, despite not being an expert, being open to this therapy, but I've always relied on some expertise from others for guidance, and that's what I think we've got from Jodie. I think that's what something she can be proud of, is her ability to, even though she's not practicing as a allopathic doctor today, I think that her background stands her in very good stead, and she's very open to that integration, and I admire that aspect and thank her for listening to my approach, my wife's approach, and bringing her approach. My daughter's story is actually not that dissimilar to Brian's in terms of her incapacitation when she was much younger. She actually missed the whole of high school, was bedridden for many years. And interestingly, she's now studying environmental science and earth science in the UK with online studies at university. And she's passing with flying colors, in fact, getting top marks, despite not having studied science at school at all. So it's quite amazing what she's achieved. and pretty proud of her.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Farrell.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. And I do think that that's one of the strengths that Jodie brings, is kind of the best of both worlds.
Thank you.
So thank you. So Brian, you know, your mother has dedicated this book to you. How does it feel to be the inspiration behind this incredible line of products and a book and even her method of practice?
Well, I certainly feel like it's a really big honor to be the inspiration behind this stuff. My mom actually helped me out in that sort of regard, and I got better over these years. And I love how she took all of that knowledge and is giving it to people. That's what I would do if I was in her shoes personally. Like I just love giving knowledge and helping people out. And this book is definitely something that could do that. Now, in terms of the herbal blends, I mean, I tested them a lot because I was usually the first guinea pig, and they really work. They're amazing. When I saw Formula One, I'm like, wait, this exists and it's possible, because I used to do the beg spray, and that was very different in terms of the effectiveness compared to Formula One, for me at least. So it was interesting, to say the least, for being the inspiration beyond this entire company, this entire herbal lineup, all these books, and I'm glad that she's sharing it with everyone.
Awesome. Do you want to maybe compare and contrast a little bit about beg spray and Formula One?
Well, the thing is, with beg spray, I've learned, like, way back in the day, that the effectiveness can be vary depending on how many mark-ons you have. But with Formula One, the effectiveness usually stays, and it takes a really long time to develop resistance to Formula One. Whereas with the beg spray, it's an antibiotic. Bacteria do develop antibiotic resistance over time, and if you don't treat it right, that is. So Formula One definitely helps with not like a magic pill, but it definitely helps with making the process more streamlined in terms of healing from mark-ons.
Okay. And we heard that you're still using a maintenance version of the Formula One. Are you using any of the other products for maintenance that?
Yes, I am. I'm using the VIP spray to reduce inflammation within my brain and other parts of my body, along with the Formula One to get rid of any extra stuff that may have came in at a certain time. And in addition, if it can't be helped and I have to go to a place that does have some sort of mold levels inside, I do use Formula One and VIP after I come back, along with the usual decontamination procedures that I do take.
Okay. And I know that you just started like a combined college and DO medical school program. Congratulations for your acceptance. I know you were accepted all over the place, and it's just because you're so smart. And maybe we can say that's because of Formula One too.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not. How is school going for you?
It's going pretty well. With my program, it's basically they're taking 4 years of undergrad education and putting it into 3 years. So I have like 7 classes a week in college, and I never knew that was a lot in terms of college, but now I know. So some of the classes can be difficult. Some of them are very simple and just stuff that I learned in high school, because we all started back from like the same spot. So I had to go back a few levels of math because of the cohort type of thing. So I'm enjoying it. I'm making a lot of new friends. I'm having a lot of fun in my apartment. It's definitely a change though, living alone and doing college.
How are things going with COVID and everything in your new school?
Oh yeah. So with COVID, we're basically hybrid until Thanksgiving break, where that means we have Zoom lectures and we sometimes go in person for classes. And with the in-person type of thing, you have to wear a mask, you have to be socially distanced for seating. It's very streamlined in terms of getting into the school and getting out. The majority of my classes are conducted online through different learning tools, such as Blackboard or Canvas. So it's interesting to say the least, and it's definitely changed compared to in-person learning. I mean, I personally am in between remote and in-person learning. I kind of like the remote learning type of scenario, but in-person is also kind of fun as well because I get to interact with my friends every day.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today. I'm sure, as I am, I'm sure that our other guests are excited to see what you're going to do as you become a physician. I expect that you're going to do great things, so please don't disappoint me. But
I won't, don't worry.
I am expecting that you're going to be a super physician and follow in your mother's footsteps and do absolutely wonderful things.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those words.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, I wanted to request another famous practitioner from the UK to say a few words. I wonder, Gillian, may I request you, I've known you for a couple of years. May I request you to say a few words, if you would?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we're very, very honored to have your products here in the UK now. It's been fascinating hearing you talking about them, and we have ordered them, of course, from you in the States over the last year and a half since we've learnt about them. But to actually have them here is fantastic. And Amrita is an excellent supplier, very well known amongst the practitioners here, as well as doctors. And so I think your brochure is also really very, very easy to use, tremendous, as well as your dosage chart that we've received recently.
Oh, that's been helpful. That's good. Okay.
Absolutely. And also your presentations are very, very clear, crystal clear. So we look forward to using them more and more here. And also perhaps receiving tailored kind of what people very much appreciate here, because the whole field of Lyme co-infections and biotoxin illness in particular is relatively new. Having kind of combinations put together, as you've done in the brochure, is very, very helpful for people. Okay. And I know Rob, and he's also a tremendous resource for people, so he'll be helping others to understand how to use the products.
Very well.
Yes, Rob, you have something to say, please?
No, I said we certainly will, to what Gillian said, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm obviously from the United States. I don't know much about Amrita in the UK. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what you do and what your extent is?
Amrita Nutrition. Okay, so we distribute multiple products from around the world, many from the States. And we have, it's a practitioner only site. So people ordering need to be linked to a practitioner. And we have 4 in-house nutritionists, myself and 3 other women that are available on the phone or on the help desk. I usually man the help desk initially, and I can always do callbacks. So we support people, well, clients and practitioners in products and which ones to. We get people asking which product would you recommend for X. So sometimes we end up, helping out with the actual case as such. But so yeah, in a nutshell, we're a distribution company with support.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Dr. Jess, do you have a question?
No, I have a comment. If there has ever been someone who I could point at that is an integrative practitioner, it's her. Not in name only. Integrative medicine should be the best of both worlds for the best interest of your patient. You should be able to draw from both ends and not force that patient to choose between one or the other, which is often what they need to do. There has to be cooperation, there has to be communication. If there's anybody in the world that does that the best, it's Jodie. And I can't wait to get your book. Like, could you send it? I mean, for real, okay? And all kidding aside, I have incredible respect for you, Jodie. I can't wait to read your book. And just the way that you bring both sides together in language that they can understand, and they have actionable things that can be done from their particular specialties. It doesn't have to be thoroughly pharmaceutical. It doesn't have to be thoroughly nutraceutical. It can be a combination of both for the right reasons. And it's one of the reasons, it is one of the many reasons that I have incredible respect for you.
Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I had a chance to look at the book, and it's fantastic and it's amazing. And There's little actionable tips almost every other page. I mean, it is really well put together. I'm really proud of you, Jodie.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot, Scott, coming from you. Thank you.
So I'm told now that I'm supposed to thank everybody who was a guest speaker so that if you need to leave, you can. So let me thank you, Rob from Amrita. Brian, you're probably not going to sign off. Dr. Joseph Musto, always a pleasure. Dr. Hellig, all the way from South Africa. Dr. Jess, who kind of jumped in. Gilian Crowther, thank you. Dr. Shoemaker, who's already left us. And I'm going to stay on because we're going to stay open, and it's kind of more like question and answer time coming up. Jodie, now it's just us and everybody else. Hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of viewers on this Zoom call. I don't know if I can speak for them, but I really am excited about your book. I really, I've only had it for a couple of days and I haven't been able to read through all of it, but I have skimmed all of it. And I did read a couple chapters, and it's amazing. And the experiences that you've been through and how you articulate them and the tips that you put in, it's an awesome book. You want to tell us anything about the preparation of the book or your inspiration besides Brian and how you put this together?
I just felt, since I had been given my son back, I had to pay it forward. And I wanted to be able to share what knowledge I had gained. The world of autism is very controversial. I'm sure it's just like the world of SIRS. It's very controversial, and it was something that I wanted to explore. I wanted to give back to the mothers, the families that go through what I had to go through myself with Brian, and that there is hope. There is no need to just blindly accept a life sentence. Like I said before, it's important to look at I understand. I don't want to even go into the arena of, hey, there's a cure for autism. It's just that, investigate if there are any medical comorbid issues. And if there are, some of the issues like SIRS can be life-altering. And not just for children, also for adults. It's just, I had so many answers that I have been dealing with. I'm pretty sure I had pandas growing up. I remember constantly having chronic tonsillitis. I wasn't able to get tonsillectomy back in the day, but you just keep going because tonsils are an important part of your immune system. And my mom, with her Greek background, my dad from India, so we had a very holistic upbringing. So there really weren't too many surgical interventions. So I wanted to put the world of plant medicine into a few problems that are coming to light now. That there's a crazy amount of people that are becoming aware of mold, of biotoxin illness. Like with the UK, for example, right? It's an island. And I've been there several times. I live there, and it's just, the problem with water damaged buildings is enormous. It's everywhere. And in Bombay, I have patients in India, in Africa, the rains, the monsoons, the tropical climates. I have patients in the Middle East, in the middle of the desert. You have incorrectly used air conditioning, and there is mold. So, and many people have been treated for Lyme for years and years with intravenous, with antibiotics. They have tremendous side effects from that, and they are unable to get better. So these patients from the non-responders club are the ones that I found were coming to me, and practitioners. I have so many practitioners from various disciplines that are on my caseload. So I wanted to share with patients, with parents, with practitioners, what I do and that there is a plant-based approach.
Awesome. And you've developed this entire BioNexus Approach. In the treatment of SIRS, how does that differ from Dr. Shoemaker's protocol?
Dr. Shoemaker's protocol is the most efficacious, and it is, you know, the fastest way to get from point A to point B, no doubt. In my patient population, what I find is they're, you know, either not able to tolerate pharmaceuticals, or they don't want to because they subscribe to the completely naturopathic lifestyle. So that is, so I had to find a way to help these people. And again, I keep saying autism because the children with the leaky gut, you know, with additional gut issues are simply unable to, I don't know what your experience has been, Scott, with autism, but you know, I've had a few families, I would say maybe 5% who've tried conventional and just had a really bad experience, because there is, you know, a large amount of research that has gone into the immune system problems and the leaky gut issues with kids on the spectrum. So my approach is 7-pronged. It is the 7 steps, and it pretty much, for lack of a better word, you know, mirrors Dr. Shoemaker's philosophy in how to get rid of SIRS, biotoxin illness. So we deal with all aspects of SIRS in the BioNexus approach, including SIRS water damage building, SIRS Lyme, and we also look at the additional microbial infections that might be present and additional toxins present in the body. So it takes it, you know, a couple steps beyond for those interested in full detoxification and cleanse.
It's one of the first things that I noticed is that, you know, in Dr. Shoemaker's approach, the medicines are very efficacious, but they can also be very harsh. And a lot of patients can't tolerate the side effects, even if you start them at extremely low doses and work your way up. And you know, that's not everybody, but I had to figure out a way to treat those people too, because otherwise you can't get anywhere. Right. So you have a whole approach. 2 thumbs up.
Thank
yeah.
you.
So your book is filled with all kinds of different recipes and clinical notes and things like that. You want to tell us a little bit about where those came from?
That is my practical day-to-day experience. Right now, many of you who are attending today know that I'm also a master herbalist. I'm a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild. And so I'm constantly experimenting with, you know, I have the farm, I have my backyard garden. I used to have my backyard garden, and, you know, the herbal garden makes an appearance ever so often. And that's where now Brian was on a very restrictive diet. He was on the specific carbohydrate diet. And, you know, he already missed his childhood. He was an athlete. We had to, you know, he ended up being sedentary. So he's sacrificed so much. That one thing that I did not want him to sacrifice was food. I don't want any of my patients to sacrifice food. You know, I've noticed that many patients are put on extremely restrictive diets, extremely. And that is something that I feel I can relate to that. So, you know, back in the day, growing up in Mumbai, Bombay, in India, the culture was such that we used to have these mini fridges, which came like, I don't know, I think it was early 80s was when our family was able to afford one. And, you know, feeding a guest or let me just stick with a guest, feeding a guest any kind of food reheated from a refrigerator was an insult to the guest. So and then my mom came from this wonderful Greek family back, just Greek-Irish, but mostly Greek. And, you know, food, they have an excellent relationship with food. India, of course, with all the spices and the flavors, has an amazing relationship with food. So a constitutional Ayurvedic lifestyle is what we were raised on. We got barely 2 vaccines, you know, tuberculosis and polio. We were not vaccinated growing up either. So that's been the a cornerstone of good health for my brothers and myself growing up. And that's what I wanted to have for Brian. So all the way, from amazing pizza to ice cream to lasagna to pasta, all on the specific, actually, I should say, I actually ended up modifying the SCD diet. And now it's the modified specific carbohydrate diet. Nothing official, but this is just what I help my patients. So, if they need to gain weight, so then we can modify, add in some starches, but safely. So all of these recipes, and the good news is so many mothers have requested me to have a recipe podcast from my kitchen. So that's coming up. I'll be doing a live podcast on the kind of foods that seem to be from a restrictive diet, but it's wonderful. We do stir fries, we do everything, chicken and beef and tofu and vegan. We have a yogurt that takes about 38 hours to cook, but anybody can have it. It's just absolutely amazing.
Awesome. The Dashore diet.
No, I wouldn't go as far as to say that. No.
Anyway, where can we find your book? Where can we buy it? Where can we get a copy for ourselves?
Okay, the hardcover limited edition version that is signed will be signed by myself. And if there is, any special message that you would like me to put in there, so that option is available through my website. So you just log on to BioNexusHealth.com and you'll see, I think it's top right, it says books. You just click on book, and that's where you can place the order. The paperback version is going to be out soon. The hardcover is getting printed today. So, all of the orders we've received, they've gone in.
And it only took you like 20 years to put this book together. When can we expect your next one?
Next book, I don't know. I mean, this book took about, I would say, it has years and years of experience and recipes and history in the book. Yeah, so you could say 20 years. Yes, it feels like that. But another book, maybe mini books, maybe recipe books, maybe specific autism and Marfan's or something of that sort is what I've been thinking. But my next exciting step, due to popular demand, is going to be a medical podcast. We are going to be having specific topics with the physician roundtable as well as parent roundtable. So you just hear it, right from the horse's mouth, both ways. And if any of you participants attending to this, so many, I'm happy, I'm open to any topic suggestions.
Well, I think we've gone a little bit over our anticipated time. But again, this is question and answer time, and I'm kind of hogging all the time. So if anybody wants to raise their hand or unmute your microphone and ask a question of Dr. Dashore, feel free.
Jodie?
Yes, hi.
Oh, can I ask you, it sounds from your description of the book, then rather it being very much based on medical procedures or things that are out of the grasp of non-medical practitioners like myself. It's going to be full of tips and practical clinical suggestions, and of course your tinctures, which are available to practitioners. So it's far more hands-on and a lot of advice for people like ourselves to use. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Would you, can I request you to briefly introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. I'm Wendy Irwin. I'm a nutritional therapist working in the UK.
Yes, I know who you are, Wendy. I just wanted, for the benefit. Yes, absolutely, Wendy. There is, like Scott mentioned, there is a lot of hands-on takeaway tools that you can start applying right away. It's step by step. You have the science, like I like to say, where science meets nature. So you have the hard science. If you would like to quickly, go back like 200 pages and refer to the hard science of it, but then you move forward and you have a really good herbal background. then you have a really good step-by-step approach. You know, what is the foundation? What is step 2? What is step 3? Exactly what formulations should be used in those steps. If you have any Herxing type reactions, or any kind of exacerbation of symptoms, intensification of symptoms, what do you do then? So it is a very step-by-step approach. Yes, yeah, it has a lot of takeaway tools that you can apply right away to your patients.
Right.
Yes. And you mentioned recipes. Yes, definitely. You know, there is herbal recipes, homemade remedies, all the way to delicious food as well, which is anti-inflammatory.
Brilliant. Thank you. I can't wait to see it. Thanks, Jodie.
You're welcome.
Well, I live in Europe, and the whole thing is that we are, well, herbal, all of things have not really caught on yet. It's not really a well-established industry over here. I was wondering if there is a way for you all to transport it or send it or have dealerships over here, or I don't know, or even get the book so that we could find ways of getting stuff over here.
That's a good question, Prince. Which country are you from?
I'm from Luxembourg.
Oh, cool.
Been here for about 35 years.
Okay, cool. So Amrita Nutrition ships all over Europe, as well as Amrita will be carrying a limited number of copies of the book as well. So that might be one way. There's Rob, and I'll have my staff, if you would be kind enough to leave your email, I'll have my staff, send you information on Amrita and how to join as a client.
That'll be great. I'll look forward to that because, well, I'm out with issues and I'd like to get over them. And this seems to be a good way forward.
I'm glad.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jodie, I'm Nigel. I'm not far away from Wendy in the UK, also a nutritional therapist, and very lucky that I've heard lots about how Jodie, how the formulations work. So I've got reasonable understanding of that, and I'm just super excited for the book coming out and getting my paws on it and working through it. So I just really appreciate the effort that you've put into that, and just sharing through as well, just generally. So just very appreciative, Jodie. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Could I just ask Jodie, the mention that Dr. Musto made of using Formula 1 for Candida, is it your experience too that it can be used for systemic Candida, even if you're using it as prescribed through the nose, or is there another way of administering it if you want to reach Candida in the gut or further down?
Yes, so we can use the spray methodology for further down. And in the gut, I will have to look at the molecular interplay. Because there is going to be a difference between a spray application and an oral application. It is in the works. There are two things that are in the works for Formula 1. One is to convert it into herb cell max with the plant stem cells. That's the advanced version of BioNexus herbals. Second is I want to, many parents of young children, very young children, as well as children on the spectrum, as well as seniors, have requested a asthma type medical nebulizer version. So I'm working on that. Then the third version will be, since it is so tremendously effective on biofilm, so having a product that works on biofilm as well as antimicrobial, I don't think I've seen that effect in one product in all these years of my practice. So I think that will be a valuable addition, and that's something that is really in the works, and I'm hoping it'll be out by next month. So both of these, the versions for the feminine Candida issues, as well as for the gut biofilm and Candida issues. So I hope to come out with versions in about a month or so.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good, good. So
Any other questions?
One more question, if I may.
yes, Wendy, of course.
Will the book be released in Amazon UK, or is it just going to be in the States, please?
The book right now, if you would like it shipped to you, I think Dr. Jess has offered, right, for the shipping concerns. However, Amrita is going to be carrying a few books, right, limited number of books to begin with. And then the paperback version in a couple weeks, that should be available on Amazon all over the world.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I'm really excited about your book, and I'm glad that we have that opportunity to celebrate, particularly the BioNexus Approach to Biotoxin Illness. Again, the signed hardcover copy will be available on your website through BioNexusHealth.com.
Yes.
You just click on the books on the top right menu. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then the paperback will be available sometime soon. And I'm excited that you all came. Thank you very much. And thank you for helping us honor Jodie on this auspicious day.